What attracted me about this campaign is that once you come through those stages of grief after you're diagnosed, is you realise you still have a life ahead of you and you can still be proud and you can still be happy. I was diagnosed in 2007 with multiple sclerosis. I went from walking to walking drunk to walking with a stick to crutches to where I am now, which is a walker and wheelchair. I'm as active as I possibly can be, and my absolute passion is wheelchair rugby, which is brilliant to keep me active and fit with my core stability, and I've actually got some biceps. It's a wonderful support network, and really something like 30 years after last playing contact sport, I'm bashing into other people, and I love it. Your life's not over, it's just different. I would like people to see me as a human being who smiles and has fun. I don't want to be seen as that bloke in a wheelchair, that very handsome bloke in a wheelchair.
So welcome to today's AirCover webinar, and we are pleased to welcome Access.ms as sponsor today. A huge apologies for the delay that has occurred. We had a software issue and the audio didn't get transmitted, so we really apologize for the inconvenience caused. Now, Access.ms is an automated AI-powered solution to make websites accessible to people with a range of disabilities. If you're looking for inspiration, you are here at the right webinar today. Our topic today is Learn How to Thrive in the Face of Adversity. So you will get to hear more about how to stay motivated during difficult times, how to champion yourself and others while going through adversities. And for this year, I'm very excited to welcome a special guest who is a disability advocate. He's also been shortlisted as one of the UK's most influential disabled people in 2021. And he's also been nominated for Positive Role Model of the Year in the category Disability in 2021. Please join me in welcoming Mark Webb. Hello, Mark. How are you doing?
Hello. Well, I'm very well, thank you. I think we're going to blame software issues. We could blame my disability, couldn't we?
But that's not the case. I mean,
No.
you're here to inspire us. It was definitely a software issue. Mark, we saw that lovely video of yours right at the beginning with an introduction to you and your life. We'll speak more about it throughout this webinar. But just before we start, Gus places a lot of importance on his core values, on his company values. And I would like to tease out one of those values and hear what your thoughts are on respect. What does respect mean to a disabled person?
I think you called me a disability champion, and I think through disability I became something of a diversity champion. So everything from ethnicity to gender to sexuality to age. I'm slightly older than a few of your students, and disability. And respect. I think I almost learnt respect through my disability developing during life. I like to think I was always a nice guy, a good chap, but I didn't realize that really, in a sense, that wasn't enough. I learnt that I needed to go out of my way to look into other people's issues, help where I could, understand other points of view. And I think that's where respect comes from, particularly in this kind of angry world we're living in, this tribal world, which is being driven partly by social media, partly by the way governments seem to be going across the world at the moment. So respect to me is stepping back, not being so selfish, seeing things one way, and being one of the good guys plus.
Thank you, Mark, for the lovely intro. To our viewers, do send questions for Mark in the chat box, and we'll come back to you at the end of the live discussion during the Q&A session. So, Mark, I'll repeat this again. You've been shortlisted one of UK's most influential disabled people and nominated for Positive Role Model of the Year in the category Disability in 2021. How has your disability been a driving force with regards to being influential and a positive role model?
It's really given me a new lease of life, isn't it? I bloody sorry, that'll be the limit of my swearing. But I bloody wish I didn't have multiple sclerosis, but it's also a gift. And it's given me a new lease of life. So I see my life in 3 phases. The first phase was growing up carefree, chasing girls, chasing beer, playing sport, fell in love, had 2 children, and I had that purpose of, being a good husband and being a good father. During that time and during my sort of the height of my professional career, I was diagnosed with MS. And as that developed beyond an invisible and minor disability into quite a severe one, I really grew a purpose which started off, raising awareness of disability into raising awareness of everything, not just MS, but all disabilities, and not just disability, but all diversities. I care and I want to make the world a better place.
Thank you, Mark. We spoke about multiple sclerosis. Now, what is multiple sclerosis and how does it impact one's day-to-day life?
Right. So have we got about 3 hours? Probably not. So it is an autoimmune disease. There's about 80 autoimmune diseases in the world. That's where your own immune system gets messed up and attacks itself. And in MS's case, multiple sclerosis case, it's the central nervous system. So my brain and my spine that is kind of doing a bomb run on itself. And forgive me, but one of the issues that I have is memory. So I've written down the kind of the key symptoms that I can have, but I'm going to go down and read from them. But essentially, almost anything can happen to my body. And if you have seen the video, I am quite significantly disabled, but I'll just list off. I've got, as I go through the list, I have every one of these symptoms except the eyesight. I can see perfectly. So fatigue, chronic. So just, I'm always tired. I wake up on about 20% battery. Walking, I can just about walk now. I usually use a wheelchair. I'm sitting in a wheelchair now. Vision, no problem here for me, touch wood. Numbness, my sensation is pretty awful. Stiffness and spasms, balance and coordination, thinking and learning and planning, because it's not, it's all a very physical thing that you see, but I'm afraid my brain is also a bit, we call it cog fog, cognitive dysfunction, and I'm afraid bladder and sexual dysfunction as well. I think we all know about the blue pill, Viagra. If it wasn't for the blue pill, I wouldn't have 2 children. So yay for technology and medical advances.
It's a huge list of list that you had there with lots of challenges that you have mentioned. How do you stay motivated during difficult times?
Same thing I referred to really earlier on. Partly, I wasn't the best behaved boy when I was a student, and as I mentioned, chasing girls. But when I I really fell madly in love with my wife, and we'd been married 21 years. I feel an immense sense of responsibility to my children and to my wife and to my wider family and friends on the one hand, and that's going to stay for life if she'll keep me. But then beyond that, I know that there's going to be no cure for MS, that there's so much more to do. When I'm a diversity champion, I'm in the UK. In the UK audience, we'll remember, or we'll know, that historically there was a lady in black and white in the 1920s who ran in front of a horse on a famous race course to get the vote for women. And we're still not there on gender parity, on pay or whatever. We're nowhere near disability achieving the same job opportunities, the same pay, the same income. We're sometimes exploited. I just feel that personal sense of responsibility to my family, but I just want to change the world, and I can't do it on my own, but I can make a little tiny change myself.
And that change is a big change after all. I mean, if you've been shortlisted, then that says it all, that those little changes do make a huge difference. Mark, what I found fascinating about you is you do wheelchair rugby. You have taken part in Tough Mudder. You have done skydiving 3 times for charity, all whilst having multiple sclerosis. I mean, tell us about your experience with Tough Mudder, with wheelchair rugby and skydiving. How do you do it?
Well, I've always been an adrenaline junkie. When I didn't quite know what I was going to do with my career, I sort of ended up in the ski in the French Alps, and I was a holiday representative, skiing and back to the chasing girls, I'm afraid. Sorry, but I've always wanted that heightened heart rate thing in life, and there's so much denied me by my multiple sclerosis that I'm always looking to show the world, show myself, make my kids happy, make my kids proud of me. So it's kind of a double whammy in the sense that I'm trying to show the world that I can still do things that I really the world and my MS is trying to deny me. And I love it. I mean, in wheelchair rugby terms, I'm often playing against people who have, for example, spinal injuries, or they've lost legs in Afghanistan wars or whatever, or they have milder cerebral palsy. So they are amazingly strong in their upper body. And me, my muscles are fading because of the lack of coordination. So I'm afraid I'm the worst player. And yet I still love it because it's adrenaline, because it's fun, because I'm 52. I know I look 21, but I'm 52 and I'm still playing an active sport. And the weird thing is, I probably wouldn't be playing active contact sport without bloody MS. Apology for the swearing.
Inspiring. This is inspiring. I wish I would go out and play rugby. I mean, Mark, good to know. To our students out there, if there's any sport that you want to take up now, you can already see it's never too late. Mark, another question I want to ask you is, as MS can make you feel really tired, how do you replenish your energy after such events, after such big events?
That's a very good question, and it's almost impossible to answer. Power naps. I don't know how that translates across the world, but very very small micro doses. Often snoring nowadays. Apologies to the family. So that. Also a little bit of reality that I have to accept that I can't do as much as I used to. So I pick and choose. There's a very strange thing, back to that respect thing. There's a difficult thing that happens with MS, that you lose some friends, partly because you're not the person dancing on the tables anymore, partly because they're scared to approach you, and they're scared of cancer and disability and people who are different, and that's tough. But in a sense, that helps because you get this tighter sense of group of friends and special people who know that sometimes you're just going to have to turn them down. So in terms of managing it, it's a lot of sleep, healthy eating, and going for the really important things in life, which would be family, campaigning, getting myself on telly.
Be lucky to have you here today. And yes, so you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2007. How did that change your life, and what challenges, if any, have you faced in your career and in the workplace?
Oh my word, it's totally changed my life. I talk about the positive sense in the they've given me purpose. If you could see below me, I've got a catheter bag which comes out of my tummy. So there's some horrible stuff that I deal with, but I deal with it with humor. I accept it and embrace it, and I've got the purpose thing, the campaign thing. I just want to talk. I'm aware that because we started late, I probably need to speak quickly, but I want to talk about three things that sort of occurred during that Dixon's time. Dixon's is a bit like Best Buy in the US. It's an electricals retailer. So we sold sexy stuff like, iPads and gaming stuff. We also sold washing machines. But in terms of, so three things happened that were just brilliant and were back to respect and this word called allyship, which is kind of helping out other people with, other diversity issues, ethnicity, sexuality, etc., etc. One, when I was diagnosed, I went away for 2 weeks to feel sorry for myself. When I came back, to work, the team around me had done some research to understand what I was going to be going through. They couldn't understand all the issues I was facing, but they had understood how to talk to me, how to ask questions when they might need to back off. Respect there. Second, as I got more and more ill, and social media was actually developing, and I'm that old, but I was becoming quite a voice on social media, as was our chief exec at the time. I was called into a room by my boss and our HR, our human resources director, and I thought I was going to get the guilty check, the check that says, thanks very much, Mark, but off you go into the sunset and feel sorry for yourself. Actually, they said to me, we love what you do. What can we do to help you to do a role that helps the company but helps you? And I worked much more on social media than what I had been doing all my life, which was PR. PR being getting your company into the paper when you want it to be in the paper, and keeping the company out of the paper when you don't want to be in the newspaper. So I worked on social media, went to a part-time role, and it just turned out, wonderful. So I wasn't either sent off, I wasn't made chief photocopier to hide in the corner. I was given a great new role, and I kept selling the company. And you can hear me, 5 years since I left the company, I still talk them up. Third quick one, when I finally got too ill to work, I said to them, look, I really can't cope. I do need to go. And they gave me a whopping check to help me in my sort of forward going life. So that's, sorry, I keep on saying respect because I love that as a value. Respect, 3 times. Brilliant.
Thank you, Mark. You're now head of communications for Shift.ms, and it's a charity that provides a network and community for people with MS. It must be very rewarding working there. Tell us a bit about the support Shift.ms provides.
Yeah, it was started by a chap who has MS himself about 11 years ago. It was 11 years ago. MS is typically diagnosed between the ages of 20 and 40. So you're in don't worry, you've got about you've got about a 1 in 800 chance of developing it, just so you know. So you're probably safe. But it emerges between the ages of 20 and 40 in the prime of your life, and your working life and your professional life and your family life. And yet a lot of the charities only tend to look after you when you're older and more disabled and really struggling. So he founded this as a way to really just peer support, talking to each other, morally supporting each other, asking those strange questions. I've got this strange tingling in my toes. Anybody else has that? And you automatically find somebody else who has it. So it's people who, he started it in the UK. It's now a worldwide organization, almost by mistake. So we've got over 40,000 members, half of them in the US and Canada, for example, but based out of Leeds, just 12 of us working there. It's people supporting each other, because even though every single one of us has different bits of that sort of menu I gave of disabilities we can have, we get it, and it's lovely being able to support each other.
How do you champion yourself and those around you?
Me, with humor. I mentioned that lady who ran in front of the horse 100 years ago. There in the UK, in the disability world, there were people in the 70s and 80s who were chaining themselves to gateposts about, to get access to buildings and to work and to equal pay, etc. There's a place for that, the angry campaigning, and there's people who do that very well. I try to do it with humor and honesty, transparency. I've got to talk about embarrassing stuff. So my blog is called onemanandhiscatheters.com. The humor, that's partly a defense mechanism, talking about myself, self-deprecating, putting myself down, making people laugh and understand that I can still have a happy time. And I do genuinely have a wonderful life.
What advice would you give to a student who is going through a difficult time in life and feels like there is no light at the end of the tunnel?
I thought this was Tom Hanks made this statement up. actually, when I Googled it, it turns out to be a Persian statement from many hundreds of years ago. This too shall pass. There is light at the end of the tunnel, I think. I think we're in a world where it's kind of an angry place. Social media accentuates that feeling. But actually, when you look at the graphs, and forgetting about the pandemic, we're a healthier place generally as a world. There's less wars out there in general. And the pandemic is a horrible time particularly for students, but particularly for so many other audiences. There's better times ahead. I know good old Greta is fantastic at talking about the green issues facing the world at the moment, and that's if I had time, I would campaign about that as well. But I actually have faith in technology to really innovate as we go forward, and as the climate gets worse. So we're going to be okay is one thing, and also I think you're probably at the moment wondering, with automation and technology, what jobs are you going to have as you emerge with all your top degrees, because you're all brilliant students, I've been told. I don't know is the answer, but that's also the magic. Most jobs that are going to come haven't been invented yet, that you're going to be doing. Some of you have got grand plans. You know exactly what you want to do. Great. An awful lot more, if you're like me, have no idea what you're going to do. But that's also great, and that's fine, because things are going to happen and technology is going to advance. And I put faith in I know I won't be cured in my lifetime of my MS, but so much technology will help me walk better. I've got a soft exoskeleton that helps me walk more, for example. A couple of rather rich guys have just flown into space. These things are just amazing advances that are happening. So it's an exciting time, even if right now we're feeling a bit sorry for ourselves.
Thank you, Mark. Let's take a look at some of the questions we have received. So the first one is, since being diagnosed with MS, do you have a different outlook on life?
Yes, I do. Empathy is the word, I think. I cry more at movies. Yes, I want to change the world. I'll repeat it slightly, but I like to think I've never been in a fight. I've tackled people hard on a rugby field, but I've never done anything bad in my life, I don't think. But I never, until I was diagnosed, I never went out to look to how I could improve the life. I've also, my wife and I lost everything in a fire just before we were married. That taught me not to really bother about material things. My MS diagnosis has really taught me that one, life can be good despite whatever's going on in the world. I'm middle class in a fairly rich country. I'm not in those horrible Chinese floods that we're seeing at the moment. So I can always see that I'm better off than so many other people, and I want to take the positives, and I have to take the positives.
Mark, what would you advise to someone who was diagnosed with MS to still go and reach their goals? Or would you advise to someone who's diagnosed with MS?
Yeah, well, I think that goes with pretty much every disability. And Shift.ms has a wonderful mantra there that it says, and I think I've fulfilled it with still playing rugby and jumping out of falling out of planes. A diagnosis with MS, insert other disability here. A diagnosis with MS doesn't mean giving up on your ambitions. It just means rethinking how to achieve them. So, as I said, I'm playing rugby. I've raised, you'll have to get your conversion calculators out, but I've raised over £20,000 for different charities by doing my nonsense stuff. I just have to look for different things. I'm not, you may be surprised to know, I'm not participating in the Olympics in the next couple of weeks. That's fine. I've got other stuff I can achieve.
Thank you, Mark. What is your secret to finding the strength to keep smiling through adversity?
Yeah, I think there's some luck in that, for one. So apologies there. I think I was born lucky and smiley. But I think we have to find gratitude. I'll point back to living in sunny England. You won't be able to hear on my headphones, but I live in the middle of the countryside. To my left, over there, I can see black sheep. To my right, I live near a zoo, and I can, on a good day, I can hear lions, which is very strange for just north of London, and chimpanzees and elephants on a really good day. I So luck one, so that's not very fair to for those who are feeling unlucky. The other one is to appreciate what I've got. It's not really helpful to say there's always someone worse off, but it is. I think it's a good way of dealing it. When I was feeling sorry for myself very early on, I can't remember what big news happened. Maybe it was a plane crash, maybe it was a flood or an explosion or whatever. And I thought, well, I'm not there. I'm at home. I'm loved. And I think it's gratitude. So luck, sorry, gratitude.
So it's a brilliant way to put things into perspective, isn't it? To be grateful for what you have, and that changes the perspective. One of the questions that we have is your blog series, One Man and His Catheters. There was one blog in particular where you said you're talking about "You're so inspiring." I think that's the title of the blog. "You're so inspiring," and you address being seen as an inspiration just because I smile. I still smile. Just to quote you. So how is it? Like, how can I explain it? So if somebody approaches you, is that what people expect from you, to smile all the time or to stay strong? Is it, how does it make you feel?
It's okay. I think one of the things I'm very keen to avoid, and most people with multiple sclerosis or any other disability, or a horrible diagnosis like cancer, for example, do we want pity? No. I think what we want is understanding. So I find it interesting that I'm found inspiring because I can play wheelchair rugby at 1 mile an hour. So I creak along. Sorry, I'm doing the wheelchair motion below the screen here. So it's funny in a sense that I'm inspiring because I don't do anything special in huge achievements except be happy and promote equality and respect and try to make the world a better place. So when there's a lot of disabled activists who don't like being called inspiring because you're smiling, Jackson. I'm smiling. So why am I inspiring and you're not? It's there's a weird disconnect. So sometimes when I'm feeling feisty, fighty, I say I'm not inspiring, I'm thought-provoking. I want people to think and realize that they can make a better world, whether that's talking, along Greta's lines, sustainability, getting politics back to a friendlier place. I don't mind. We can't all campaign about one thing, but we can all make little changes.
Wonderful message. And we have a final question. It's, where do you get your inspiration from?
From my children. I love my children so much. One, if you had to read one book about disability allied to humor, I would love you to read Michael J. Fox's autobiographies. He's written 3 now. The first one is the best, but I've read the other 2. Now, Michael J. Fox, some of you are a little younger than me, but he was most famous for being in Back to the Future, the trio of films that came out in the 90s. He's got Parkinson's, which is another disease, not dissimilar, lots of shakiness going on. But he approaches the world. He's a bit more famous than me at the moment. I'm going to catch up. But he approaches the world with humor, and he talks all about, he can't hit the toilet when he's trying to wee because he's so shaky. And that's the approach. So my inspiration would be Michael J. Fox, my children.
Mark, we're coming slowly to an end to this webinar. Thank you so much for the inspiring chat today. It's been a pleasure to have you here. And to Accessibility, thank you for sponsoring this event. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us today. And do stay and watch the 1-minute video that is going to follow, which shows the wonderful things Accessibility does for the community. And hope you all enjoyed this webinar, and we look forward to welcoming you to the next series of Air Cover. Thank you and goodbye.
I try to talk really positively about MS. It's what I've got. There's not going to be a cure tomorrow. I feel like I've got to accept it and, so to speak, roll with it. I get around mostly in a wheelchair. As much as I can, I'm still walking with my walker, rollator. I play wheelchair rugby badly, but it doesn't stop me loving it. At home, I exercise as much as I can. I lie in bed lifting weights while I'm watching telly. The longer I can keep active, I feel healthier in myself, not just because more muscles still work. I just feel better about myself. I'm a very proud family man. I've got a loving wife, I've got 2 great children, and I'm grateful that I'm actually able to spend more, if different, times with my kids. They love it because basically I'm a sitting target. But one little advantage, when I get hit, don't feel a thing.
We are unstoppable.
We shoot for the stars.
And we can achieve anything we set our minds to.
We're entrepreneurs,
We are community leaders.
athletes,
Artists.
Organic farmers.
We are mothers and daughters.
Unstoppable.
unstoppable.
And yet, people with disabilities probably can't use your website.
To buy your shoes.
Order your food,
Apply for your job. To use your dating sites.
just like everybody else.
For millions of Americans.
America.
Like me.
Like me.
Like me. Me. Me.
Like me.
The internet is inaccessible.
Hey, if your business has a website, make it accessible.
Unlock web accessibility with Accessiby. It's simple and affordable.
And don't just do it to be compliant.
Do it because it's the right thing to do.
Web accessibility is Accessiby. Start your free trial today.